Listen to me very carefully, because I am only going to say this once, and what I am about to tell you in the next 30 minutes could be the difference between you protecting everything you have built and watching a black-robed, unelected lawyer in Washington, D.C., quietly dismantle not just your constitutional rights, but your financial future, your generational wealth, and the last legal wall standing between a free citizen and a completely dependent, government-controlled population. Chief Justice John Roberts just made a decision. And whether you own a firearm or not is completely irrelevant, because this is not just about guns anymore. This is about power. This is about who controls the narrative, who controls the courts, and most dangerously, who controls your money. The Second Amendment, as you understood it, as your grandfather understood it, as every freedom-loving American has depended on it, has just been fundamentally altered. And while you were busy scrolling through garbage on your phone, the most consequential legal shift in modern American history just happened without you even noticing. Wake up. I don't care about your feelings. I care about your money. And right now, both are bleeding. Before I break down every single dollar and cents implication of what Roberts just did, I need you to do one thing right now. Hit that subscribe button. Do not wait until the end of this video. Do not think about it. The legal intelligence, the financial positioning strategy, and the cold hard mathematical truth I am about to hand you would cost you $5,000 minimum in any private investment advisory session, and you're getting it here completely free, but only if you are subscribed. Smart people take free, valuable information seriously. Winners act immediately. Losers keep scrolling. Subscribe right now. Hit the notification bell, and let us get into the numbers. Let me tell you exactly what happened, because the mainstream financial media is too cowardly and too compromised to explain it to you in plain language, so I will do it myself. Chief Justice John Roberts, the man who was appointed to be a constitutional conservative and has spent the last decade disappointing every single person who believed that, has now sided with or enabled a legal framework that fundamentally weakens the individual right to keep and bear arms, as established by the Heller decision in 2008. And I want you to understand something before your emotions take over. I do not care whether you are pro-gun or anti-gun, because that is a feelings argument. And I do not trade on feelings. I trade on facts. And the fact is this: when a constitutional right gets legally eroded, the financial ecosystem built around that right collapses, restructures, and rebuilds under new government-controlled parameters. And if you are not positioned ahead of that restructuring, you are going to lose money. Period. The numbers do not lie. Roberts has now demonstrated a consistent pattern. He did it with the Affordable Care Act. He did it with census manipulation, and he has done it again here, of being the deciding vote that expands government reach and contracts individual liberty. And every single time government reach expands, there is a transfer of wealth. Not a creation of wealth, a transfer from the unprepared, the emotional, the reactionary, that is most of you watching right now, to the cold, calculated, and positioned. The legal text matters less than the financial trajectory it creates. And the trajectory here is unmistakably clear. Regulatory expansion is coming for the firearms industry, and with it comes taxation, litigation, licensing, restructuring, and insurance mandates that will reshape a $28 billion industry inside of 36 months. If you do not know what that means for your portfolio, you are already behind. Now, I want to take you back to something that most people never learned in school, because school was designed to create employees, not investors. The Second Amendment was never purely philosophical. It was economic. It was written by landowners, by men of property and capital, who understood that an unarmed population is a population that cannot resist confiscation. Not just confiscation of weapons, but confiscation of land, of labor, of wealth, and of future. When you study the history of every nation that has undergone aggressive civilian disarmament, you will find one consistent financial pattern without a single exception. Government spending increases, individual taxation increases, private wealth concentration narrows to a smaller and smaller elite class, and the middle class, your class, gets economically suffocated over the following 2 to 3 decades. That is not politics. That is economic history. And economic history is the only history that actually pays. You are broke and you do not even know it because you have been trained to think about the Second Amendment as a culture, war argument, rather than as a financial architecture question. The firearms industry in America directly employs over 340,000 people. It generates nearly $70 billion in total economic impact annually. It funds hundreds of millions in conservation and public land maintenance through the Pittman-Robertson Act. It is woven into the agricultural economy, the tourism economy, the manufacturing economy, and the insurance economy in ways that most financial analysts are too politically scared to map honestly. When Roberts and his colleagues began legally redefining the boundaries of that industry, they are not just writing legal opinions. They are moving markets, shifting labor, restructuring tax revenue, and creating enormous financial winners and losers. The question you need to answer today, not tomorrow, not after the next news cycle, is which side of that transfer are you going to be on? Let me give you the cold, hard truth about what this ruling means for your money right now, today, this week. Because I do not deal in hypotheticals and I do not deal in comfort. The immediate financial impact of increased Second Amendment legal restriction falls into 4 categories, and I want you to write these down. First, publicly traded firearms manufacturers. Companies like Smith & Wesson's parent company, American Outdoor Brands, Sturm Ruger, and Vista Outdoor will experience increased regulatory compliance costs, increased litigation exposure, and suppressed institutional investment as ESG-pressured funds accelerate their divestment timelines. That means downward pressure on share price in the short to medium term for the uninformed holder. Second, the legal services industry around firearms, constitutional law firms, compliance consultants, federal licensing specialists is about to experience a revenue explosion because every single firearms dealer, manufacturer, and distributor in America now needs to reassess their legal exposure. That is a financial opportunity hiding inside a constitutional tragedy, and smart investors see both. Third, the insurance and surety bond market for firearms businesses is going to expand dramatically as new regulatory mandates create mandatory coverage requirements. Insurance companies that are positioned in this niche are going to see premium volume increases that most analysts have not yet priced in. Fourth, and most importantly for the average person watching this right now, the price of legally compliant firearms and ammunition is going to increase because regulatory compliance costs are always passed to the consumer. Cash is trash, and if we are sitting on cash while hard assets, including legal, registered firearms as store value instruments in certain markets, are repricing upward, you are voluntarily getting poorer every single day. The numbers do not lie. Inflation plus regulation plus litigation equals price appreciation for the asset and wealth destruction for the uninformed consumer. Stop being a victim. I need you to hear that clearly and without softness, because the victimhood mentality is the most expensive financial habit in America today. And here is what the government's real playbook looks like, because they are not even hiding it anymore. They have just correctly calculated that most of you are too distracted, too emotionally reactive, and too financially illiterate to read it. This has never been about saving lives. If it were about saving lives, they would have addressed the pharmaceutical industry's role in mass violence events. They would have addressed urban gang economics. They would have restructured the mental health funding model that has been systematically dismantled since the 1980s, but they did not do any of those things because none of those things consolidate financial and legal control over a $28 billion industry the way that Second Amendment restriction does. The real playbook is a 4-step economic control strategy. Step 1 is legal redefinition. Use the courts, not the legislature, to reframe what is constitutionally protected, which is exactly what this Roberts decision enables. Step 2 is regulatory expansion. Once the legal boundary moves, agencies like the ATF gain expanded rulemaking authority, which translates directly into compliance costs and business model disruption across the entire industry supply chain. Step 3 is taxation and licensing restructuring. This is where the Government actually makes its money because new licensing tiers, new excise tax frameworks, and new municipal-level permitting systems create revenue streams that flow directly to government, while simultaneously pricing out smaller independent businesses. Step 4 is insurance mandates, force liability insurance requirements onto gun owners and dealers, which transfers a permanent, recurring revenue stream to the insurance industry while creating a de facto registration and tracking system for every legally owned firearm in America. If you think any of this is accidental or ideologically motivated, you are still thinking like a consumer. Think like an investor, ask who profits, follow the money every single time, because the money never lies, even when the politicians do. So what are the smartest investors and financial minds doing with this information right now? And what specifically should you be doing with your dollars this week? First, let me be absolutely direct with you. I am not your financial advisor. I am your wake-up call, and you need to consult a licensed professional before making any investment decision. But I will tell you what the numbers and the historical pattern of regulatory-driven market restructuring suggests to the informed, unemotional investor. When a major American industry faces accelerated regulatory pressure, there are always three categories of investment behavior that outperform: litigation-adjacent, legal and compliance services, alternative and tangential hard asset classes, and short to medium volatility instruments on the directly impacted equities. In plain language, the lawyers win, the hard assets win, and the people who understand volatility win, while the buy and hold emotional investor in the directly regulated company loses in the short term before any potential recovery. Defense sector ETFs that carry exposure to less regulated segments of the broader firearms and security ecosystem tend to be more insulated than pure play retail firearms companies. Real assets, land, particularly rural land with agricultural or recreational value, historically appreciate in regulatory uncertainty environments because they represent the physical, tangible underpinning of the rights being debated. And for the investor who understands options markets, elevated implied volatility in firearms adjacent equities creates premium selling opportunities for the sophisticated trader. Beyond specific positioning, the most important mathematical move you can make right now is to get your emergency reserve out of cash and into short duration, inflation protected instruments. Because the regulatory and legal turmoil created by decisions like this one always has an inflationary downstream effect on consumer goods prices in the affected sector. The numbers do not lie. Positioned investors get wealthy during restructuring. Unprepared investors watch it happen from the sidelines and wonder why their purchasing power keeps shrinking. Let me close with this, and I want you to feel the weight of every single word I am about to say to you. You came to this video because the title shocked you. Good. You should be shocked. But shock without action is just entertainment. And entertainment is for people who are comfortable being broke. The Roberts decision is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new financial chapter. And every single chapter of legal and regulatory restructuring in American history has produced a new class of winners and a new class of losers. The winners were not the smartest people in the room. They were the most prepared. They were the ones who consumed real information, made unemotional decisions, positioned their capital ahead of the crowd, and refused to be victims of a system that was never designed to protect their wealth. That can be you, but only if you choose it. Right now, today, not after the next segment on cable news, not after the next election cycle, right now. So I'm asking you one final question, and I want you to answer it honestly in the comments below. Are you a winner or a loser? Subscribe. Share this video with one person who needs to hear the truth. Drop your answer in the comments and come back tomorrow because the next video is going to hit even harder. Your financial future is not a feeling, it is a choice. Choose wisely